Welcome back, everyone. So we are officially halfway through the term. So by now, you should hopefully be caught up on everything. If not, if you've left anything from modules 1 through 4 blank, make sure that you are filling everything out and getting things in order this week to complete the rest of the term on a good note. So we're going to jump into Module 5 this week. So in Module 5, we're going to look at energy. So as our population continues to grow, we need to look for ways to provide enough energy to support this growing population. Now, in the past, a lot of our energy came from fossil fuels, and fossil fuels are the major contributor to global warming. So we're going to be taking a look at alternatives to fossil fuels, renewable energy alternatives, and the pros and cons with these. We're also going to look at the political and economic issues that surround those energy strategies. Okay, and for you, you're going to be examining your own energy usage and develop ideas on how to reduce your usage. Okay, and we're also going to do a milestone. So we have quite a bit of information we're going to be covering this week. So let's take a look at our module overview. So with our module overview, again, we're going to be taking a look at the main cause of global warming, the usage of fossil fuels. So fossil fuels, basically, that carbon-based fuel that we acquire from long ago decayed vegetative and biological matter that now comes out of the earth in the form of coal and oil and things like that. And so these carbon-based fuels, they're very rich in energy when they combust. And so that's why we use them as energy sources. The problem is they took millions of years to form. And so because of that, they are a finite resource. And as they release energy, the carbon gets released as carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Okay, so we're going to take a look at fossil fuels, but we're also going to look at other energy alternatives, such as nuclear power, which has a lot of pros in the sense that it's a way that we can get fairly clean energy, but a major con in the sense that it can be very damaging. Hydropower, so that's doing like hydroelectric power from dams. Biofuels, they produce less air pollution, but there's also some energy drawbacks from that. We also have renewable energy sources, so we'll look at solar, wind, and geothermal energy, which produce little or no pollution, but there might be some economic and political issues revolving around them. So we're going to take a closer look at all of those today, or in this unit, I should say. So in this unit, there's 3 objectives that you'll need to meet by the end. So discuss a sustainable plan for reducing energy in the household. We'll cover that in our discussion board post. Describe a sustainable solution to an environmental issue in your community that has been proposed by the scientific community, so that has to do with the milestone. And discuss the economic implications involved in implementing a solution to an environmental issue. So that also covers your milestone 2. So the 2 assignments this week, first one will be the initial discussion board post. So you're going to be reading the assigned chapters and reviewing other assigned resources to complete that initial discussion board post. You'll also respond to peers in your discussion board posts, like always. So that's one of your assignments this week. And then the other assignment is the milestone 2. So the milestone 2 will further help you complete part of your final project. Okay, so let's take a look at our reading. So we have 2 chapters that we're covering this week, so chapters 15 and 16. So in chapter 15, we're going to be looking at fossil fuels, and chapter 16, we're looking at alternative methods of energy. Okay, so when you read chapter 15, a couple of questions to have in the back of your mind: what alternative energies need to be used to reduce the impact of fossil fuels on the environment? And what role does conservation play in reducing this impact? Okay, so try to write those answers out while you're reading the textbooks chapters. We also have an article, Renewable Energy, All You Need to Know. So with that article, it goes pretty extensively into all of the history, the types, where we get it from, and all sorts of information. So you can go ahead and take a closer look at the different types of energy, what they do, what's the advantage, what are the disadvantages, and things like that. So this will be a very useful source for you when you're writing your discussion board post. We also have a couple of labs. So we have a lab estimating appliance and home electric use. So if you're basically the next times you're in search of a new appliance, always a good idea to take a look at the energy guide that's attached to the appliance to figure out the energy cost. Okay, so we always want to look for an Energy Star appliance in our purchase, and then make sure that yearly operating cost, try to look for the lower number, because it will cost you a lot less to run over the year, and so it'll be saving you money in the long run. Okay, so you can learn more about that here, as well as being able to calculate an appliance's energy, how much it'll cost you. Okay, so that'll give you an idea. We also have gas equivalencies, so you can kind of see how much, what's like a tank of gas, like what's the equivalent to the contribution to the atmosphere and things like that. So for example, like I have a hybrid vehicle, so I only have 10-gallon tank, but if I put 10 gallons in my tank, you can kind of see what the equivalent is once it's being consumed. Okay, so on average, I can actually drive more than 226 miles because I have a hybrid vehicle, but on a regular one, it's about 226 miles, which is equivalent to almost 100 pounds of coal burned, 4.1 propane cylinders used in home barbecues. That's 7.6 trash bags of waste recycled in landfills and so forth. So you can kind of see 1.5 tree seedlings grown for 10 years would be the amount that I would need to plant in order to counterbalance that 10 gallons of gas I just put in my gas tank. Okay, so you can kind of play around with those numbers and see. Okay. So talking about the initial discussion board post, for this first discussion board post, you will be calculating your household carbon footprint calculator. And in order to do this, you will need like a current utility bill to help you. Okay, if you don't have access to a utility bill, then you can use the little eye icon next to it to see like the average, and then just use that instead. Okay, so do note that it is based on like how many people are in your household and your zip code. And then as you're going through, there's your household, there's or home energy section, there's also a transportation section and a waste section. So once you've completed all of those, given your best estimates, you can figure out your carbon footprint. Okay, so once you've taken the quiz, you get your carbon footprint you'll get your report, and you'll see what your total annual carbon emissions are. So I'd like you to put that total annual carbon emissions in your subject line for your initial post, okay, so that we can see what was your total carbon footprint in pounds. Okay, so in your initial post, you're going to share that as well as compare it to the US average for a similar household in your zip code. So everybody lives in different areas, and so some of us have smaller households, some of us have larger households. So we're going to compare your particular footprint to people that are in a similar household in your similar area. Okay, so that way it'll be a more equal comparison than if you're comparing one person who lives alone in a giant mansion versus a person that lives in a family of 10 in in a 3,000 square foot house or something. I don't know. So it's a little bit more equal comparison there. So you'll write that information out, and then develop a solution that you can implement to reduce your carbon emissions. So this is where you can kind of go back into looking at ways to reduce your emissions section in the calculator. Look for things that you would actually do. Okay, so discuss some cost considerations involved. So if it says you could do a lot of reduce your carbon footprint by quite a bit by installing solar panels, that might be a great idea, but the potential costs might not be in your budget right now. Okay, so kind of think about those things when you're exploring solutions to reduce your carbon footprint. So hopefully you'll find some solutions that fit within your budget, that you can actually consider implementing. Okay, so do some research and consideration when you're writing this out. Assume your neighbors use the same amount of energy. So if they use the same amount of energy, what would be a potential environmental consequence to your community if a solution is not implemented? So if everybody continued to live the same way, how would that affect the environment over time? So that all goes into initial discussion board posts. So again, it should take a couple paragraphs. Make sure you're including in-text citations where appropriate. So for the solutions, you might have to go back and cite the source, the calculator solutions page as the source for that solution. And then, because it's probably also giving you a number of how much it'll reduce your carbon footprint. Okay, so do make sure you're using your in-text citations and the full references as required. And then for your response posts, you have 2 response posts, and in your 2 response posts, you're going to recommend 2 alternative solutions that your peers could use to reduce their energy. So these should be different, okay? So if I read one of your response posts, you'll have 2 alternative solutions to their post. And then if I read another response post from you, 2 different solutions, okay? So you're not just basically repeating the same post twice. Consider the cost of implementing the solutions. So it's probably not a good idea to tell everybody to install solar panels that are going to cost them $20,000 up front, unless the cost savings is really great. And then, what would be the impact on the environment? Okay, so I want to see, 2 alternative solutions per peer response, okay? Discussing the cost of implementing the solutions, the cost savings, and the impact. All right, so that is your, discussion board post. So the initial posts due Thursday midnight, and then the response posts, 2 of them due Sunday midnight. And then the second part is your milestones post here. So in your milestone post, I will have another announcement that contains a video that kind of walks you through everything. But we do can have a milestone 2 worksheet that you're going to be filling out. So let's take a look at our guidelines here for our milestone. I'll just briefly kind of go over. But in this milestone 2, you're going to be taking that information you learned last week on how to read a peer-reviewed article, and you're going to find some sort of sustainable solution to your environmental issue. Okay, so basically you're going to identify an environmentally and economically sustainable solution. So in that solution, you're going to describe the solution with evidence to support it, explain why it's considered sustainable, how much time would it be to implement it, what are the cost considerations, the advantages, disadvantages, and the consequences. Okay, so you will be filling out a worksheet. Okay, so this worksheet, just like in milestone 1, you'll be typing in your answers. Make sure you type them as detailed as possible and include those in-text citations where appropriate. Again, try to do this as thoroughly as possible, because if you look at some of these questions, like for example, it says here, describe a sustainable solution to your selected environmental issue that's been proposed by your scientific community. If I go back into our final project, let's go into the final project prompt, okay? If we look under sustainable solutions, part 2, describe a sustainable solution to your selected environmental issue that has been proposed by the scientific community. That's the exact same thing that's in your milestone 2. So basically what you're doing in milestone 2 is you're completing part 2 of your environmental issues paper. Okay, so the more thorough of information you provide in your worksheet, the better feedback you're going to receive from me, the more complete you will have for this section of your environmental issues project. Okay, so we've all pretty much completed the first part of your environmental issues paper. Now we're working on the second part in milestone 2. Okay, so try to do a very thorough job filling out that worksheet to the best of your abilities, as complete as possible. Okay, so you're basically answering the questions in the prompt with evidence. Okay, so make sure that you're including scientific evidence to back up your claims. All right, so once you have completed that, then you are going to go ahead and submit it for 95 points. All right, and then of course I do have a milestone tutorial that you can watch that I'll go through every single part of this milestone 2 for you. All right, if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, good luck everyone.